Sukapon. Sukapon is a tricky oddball of an all-rounder who excels at catching his foes off guard with a mixture of fantastic mix-up tools and dangerous burst options, all while controlling the neutral with his variety of great range and strong defensive options. With a plethora of disjoints and great frame data in his possession, Sukapon ends up spoiling many of the staple strengths of fighting game characters, with chief among them being a strong neutral and the ability to convert small hits into big damage. While these can make Sukapon a character that always has the chance to mount a comeback, Sukapon also ends up suffering from a lot of the same weaknesses as his fellow fighting game brethren, with chief amongst them being his poor mobility. While he might have tools that can burst foes down at close to mid-range, Sukapon's slow ground speed and air acceleration will make it difficult for him to pursue foes trying to run away. And while his stage presence is pretty great thanks to his range, Sukapon can sometimes find himself being forced to play on the offensive if he's up against a character that can play a keep away game even better than he can. As a result, Sukapon's playstyle will mostly revolve around a patient and explosive game plan that will force his players to make the most out of each interaction. And as a Sukapon player, it will be your job to maintain your stage presence and continuously use your projectiles and long-range normals to force engagement and slowly work your way into your optimal damage range. It's definitely a playstyle that's slower when compared to your fighting game contemporaries, but if you put in the effort, it has the potential to be just as strong, if not stronger under certain circumstances. Sukapon is a medium-sized semi-humanoid character, with his height being just a bit taller than characters like Sonic and Mario. A quirky and lovable robot that was originally designed to be a comedy bot, Sukapon would find himself being remodeled into a battle-ready military robot after one of his creators, the mischievous Dr. Walnuts, stole a set of military robots and declared his plans for world domination. Thanks to the work of Dr. Emmon, Sukapon would not only go on to defeat the 7 bots that Walnuts stole, but also the many robots that Walnuts built during his push for world domination, all before battling and defeating his most powerful robot, Ho-Oh, on the surface of the moon. With his goals achieved and there no longer being a need for his combat abilities, Sukapon would be restored back into a comedy robot and go on to become the world's greatest comedian, bringing his adventure to an end on a happy note. Although, if the situation were to arise, I'm sure he wouldn't mind coming out of retirement if he were ever given a chance to join the world of Smash. As a fighter, Sukapon is often considered an oddball in the game that's filled to the brim with odd fire designs, with his slow movement speed and floaty jumps being offset by the explosive potential of not only his Sukapon roll and Kananaran, but also his fantastic grab range. As a result, Sukapon is considered a defense-oriented fighter who gets most of his damage from his general unpredictability, and this is an aspect that I want to keep alive in Sukapon's Smash debut. While that's the case, however, there are a couple of important aspects in Joy Mech Fight that I want to improve upon if I'm going to be bringing Sukapon into Smash, with the most important aspect being Sukapon's personality and, by extent, improving his animation quality. While it was fairly impressive for its time, Joy Mech Fight's mixture of rushed development and limited hardware resources led to characters having very simple and stiff animations. And given Sukapon's status as a robot that likes to make people laugh, I don't feel that sticking to the original game's animation quality would be doing the character justice. As a result, Sukapon is moving beyond the keyframe style of animation seen in Joy Mech Fight and is being brought into the modern age with new animations befitting a former comedian. As on top of a more expressive face, Sukapon will now sport brand new animations for running, double jumping, crouching, and rolling. Even if that's the case, I don't want to entirely sacrifice the spirit of Joy Mech Fight, so these animations are still snappy and responsive, as should be the case for a fighting game character. This also helps Sukapon from unintentionally devolving into a lesser version of Rayman, as while both might be limbless heroes, their playstyle should not be comparable. In terms of mobility options, Sukapon will sport 2 jumps, all while sporting the ability to crawl and wall jump. With the release of Joy Mech Fight on the Famicom in 1993, Nintendo would mark the last time they would ever develop and release a traditional fighting game. And with Sukapon's inclusion in Smash, Nintendo finally has their own traditional fighting game character to join the likes of Ryu, Terry, and Kazuya. As a result, it's only fitting that Sukapon's character mechanic would follow suit and be based on the various systems featured by said fighting game legends, with it being known as Joyous Mech. To quickly run down the list, as this is far from the first time I've covered a traditional fighting game character on this channel, Sukapon will always face the opponent straight on in one-on-one fights, all while not only sporting locked jump arcs when jumping forward, but also the ability to either cancel or buffer into any of his specials from his physical attacks. On top of that, Sukapon will only end up sporing one set of normal buttons as well, making him closer to Terry than that of Ryu, all while sacrificing a bit of frame data for much greater range than his contemporaries. On top of that, Sukapon not only sports larger jumps, but reduced gravity, with this making him slightly floaty for a fighting game character. But with the ability to reliably pressure foes both trying to cross him up or getting off the floor, Sukapon's unique strengths give him a gameplay feel that's unlike any of the characters that came before him. Also, it should be noted that, while all of his attacks from Joy Mech Fight are included in this design, the fact that the Famicom only sports 2 buttons means that Sukapon will need to pull from outside sources in order to fill out the holes in his moveset. Thankfully, there are plenty of characters in Joy Mech Fight that can serve as great moveset inspiration, or more specifically, the 7 other robots that the player can use in the story mode. In total, Sukapon will mainly be pulling from 2 other robots, with these being Tiger and Ai, all while also taking after the various robots that share his visual design, like Bok and Sukapokon. This all makes up the basis of Sukapon as a fighter, an unorthodox traditional fighting game character who will use his great range and versatile specials kit to catch mistakes and punish over aggression, all while making up for his sluggish mobility with the use of both projectiles and dangerous mix-up options. He's just simple enough at the base level to be welcoming to players, while sporting enough of a mechanical depth to reward those who stick with him and learn all he has to offer. And now that you know all you need to about Sukapon as a character, let's now move on to his normals and discuss the moves that will make up this charming little combat bot. As previously mentioned, Sukapon's normals will be comprised of moves from not only Sukapon's moveset in Joy Mech Fight, but also a variety of normals from the other playable characters in the main bot lineup. Mix in some brand new moves that come courtesy of Sukapon's affinity for comedy, and you've got a character that will sport a refined yet partially accidental way of fighting his foes, as it's only fitting that a comedy robot would have some rather unorthodox attacks. Sukapon's neutral combo is no-nonsense combination, a fairly standard combo option that will start by having Sukapon attack with a pair of punch attacks, with these mimicking the appearance of his light punch from Joy Mech Fight, all before transitioning into an endless combo that will have Sukapon rapidly flail his arms out in front of himself. This flailing is based on the attack known as Nonsense from Joy Mech Fight, with it building up damage the longer the player continues to mash the attack button, all before Sukapon sends his foes flying with a double palm thrust to end the combo. In terms of design, this combo will cover a great range and provide Sukapon with a reliable get-off-me option that not only builds up damage quickly, this combo will cover a great range and provide Sukapon with a reliable get-off-me option that not only builds up damage quickly, but its almost fully disjointed hitboxes can make it difficult to approach Sukapon from the front. This is also the first instance of a traditional fighting game character sporing an endless combo, so on top of its own damage potential, pairing it with one of Sukapon's specials can make for a destructive 1-2 punch if his foes aren't ready for it. It's also possible to make this move safe on block if it's paired with moves like Sukapon Roll, but some characters might be able to knock Sukapon out of the air before he can recover, so be careful. Sukapon's forward tilt is Sukapon Kick, another simple yet versatile attack that will have Sukapon perform a straight kick in front of himself, his attack pattern mimicking the cutter kick used by his fellow playable character, Ai. In terms of design, this attack will both cover a solid range and deal decent damage on hit, and to add on to his comedic tendencies, Sukapon's stance will have a chance to falter slightly when he attacks, which also plays into the fact that Sukapon is the only playable character who wasn't originally designed for combat. As a result, it's only fitting that while he can be programmed to learn a variety of combat techniques, his ability to perform them isn't on par with his contemporaries thanks to his hasty reprogramming. As for its purpose in combat, this move's mostly horizontal launch angle can allow Sukapon to chase a variety of special moves at low to mid percents, all while serving as a solid edge guarding tool that can punish most scalp options if spaced correctly. Sukapon's up tilt is Kickback, another simple attack that will have Sukapon bend backwards, all while kicking above himself to knock any nearby foe up into the air. This attack is based on Sukapon's standing kick from Joy Mech Fight, with its large attack arc allowing Sukapon to punish foes either trying to approach him from above or attempting to land, all while the attack's animation has been updated slightly to show Sukapon supporting his balance via his hand. On top of that, this move's quick startup mixed with its large range makes it one of Sukapon's best kill setups, as it can link into his specials at even later percents. Sukapon's down tilt is Silly Sweeper, a simple yet highly expressive attack that will have Sukapon perform a sweeping kick low to the ground, or at least he attempts to, as while trying to throw his lower half forward, he ends up falling onto the ground as his foot extends forward, damaging any foe in its path. This attack is based on Sukapon's leg sweep from Joy Mech Fight, and much like said attack, this move will knock foes up and away from Sukapon on hit, all while dealing some decent damage in the process. As for its purpose in combat, this move's large disjoint hitbox, when combined with the way that Sukapon shifts his hurtbox, makes it a potent punish option and arguably Sukapon's best neutral poke. And when paired with his specials, it also serves as a pretty great setup tool. Just be sure you space yourself correctly, however, as while the attack is disjointed, this move's recovery time is a bit slower than Sukapon's other grounded options, making it much easier to punish. Sukapon's dash attack is Pon Pratfall, another highly expressive option that will have Sukapon attempt to attack with an advancing kick, all before he trips forward and slides along the ground, damaging any foe in his path with solid force. This attack is based on Sukapon's Good Punch from Joy Mech Fight, and in terms of design, this unorthodox attack more than makes up for its incidental attack pattern with not only great damage and range, but also the ability to low profile incoming attacks. As a result, this move is one of Sukapon's go-to attacks for punishing projectiles in the neutral, and with the aforementioned damage, this move can also serve as an unexpected kill confirm near the ledge. Despite this, however, this move balances out its great stats by being highly committal in nature, with this move's slow recovery time leaving Sukapon open to serious punishment if it either whiffs or is blocked, though there is a chance that you might be able to pass through your opponent's shield if you use this move at point-blank range. For his get-up attacks, Sukapon will attack around himself with a pair of spin kicks, all while attacking with a straight kick for his ledge attack. For his smash attacks, Sukapon will follow the same design philosophy as his regular normals, and make use of a group of powerful attacks not only from his own moves list, but the kit of his fellow playable mechs from Joy Mech Fight. As for their purpose in Sukapon's game plan, these moves will cover a great range and play into Sukapon's fantastic whip punching potential, as one of them is even capable of cancelling into Sukapon's specials at certain percent values. Just be sure you don't overdo things, as that range comes at the cost of long recovery times. Sukapon's forward smash is Konaniran, an unorthodox but very effective damage option that will have Sukapon rapidly spin his head around to build up kinetic energy, all before launching it forward to deal damage to all foes in his path. An updated take on the move of the same name from Joy Mech Fight, this attack will cover a solid range and provide a disjoint on Sukapon's head, with this allowing Sukapon's player to close out stocks and punish neutral mistakes from a safe distance away. But, much like in Joy Mech Fight, this attack does spore a unique mechanic that sets it far apart from any smash attack in the game. Should the player continue to hold the attack button during the move's active frames, Sukapon's head won't be pulled back to his body, but instead, his body will be pulled to his head, advancing him forward a great distance and allowing his player to reposition while being protected by an advancing hitbox. This is, in turn, not only one of Sukapon's strongest stock closers, but also his best advancing option. And as an added bonus, choosing to advance with this attack doesn't add any extra end length to the move. Just be sure you're careful, however, as using Konaniran to advance will make the move much easier to punish. Sukapon's up smash is Neo Uppercut, a simple yet powerful damage option that will have Sukapon perform a rising uppercut, launching foes upwards on hit as he leaps upwards into the air. In terms of design, its explosive attack is based on the move of the same name from Joy Mech Fight, with Neo himself being based on the traditional shuttle playstyle that was popularized by Ryu in Street Fighter II. As a result, this is essentially Sukapon's take on the legendary uppercut attack, and while it might not pack the same punch as Ryu, its damage and range will allow Sukapon to stop an aerial approach or prevent his foe from being able to land. While that's the case, however, this move does not sport brief invulnerability on startup, meaning it can be stuffed if the player doesn't position themselves correctly. Finally, Sukapon's down smash is Suka Cyclone, a strong positioning tool that will have Sukapon spin around on his head, rapidly striking on either side of himself with his feet before launching any nearby foe away. This move's attack pattern is based on the John Cyclone from Joy Mech Fight, but instead of advancing forward, Sukapon will spin in place, with his head sporing a disjoint and protecting Sukapon from harm as he attacks. As a result, this move is at its strongest when Sukapon's player uses it as either an Okezemi option or an edgeguarding tool, with its lingering hitbox and great startup speed being balanced out by weak shield pressure and the lowest damage output of Sukapon's smash attacks. It's not all bad though, for as previously alluded to, Sukapon will be able to cancel the first hit of this attack into any of his specials, barring you can properly time the attack and not whiff the follow-up. And yes, you heard that correctly, only the first hit of this combo attack is capable of being special cancelled, meaning that players will need to buffer their special input should they not wish to miss the window entirely. It can be tricky, but synergy with a couple of Sukapon's buttons more than makes the time it takes to learn worth it. Well, we might be better suited for grounded fights, Sukapon's large floaty jumps are a notable departure from his FGC brethren. In some instances, his ability to punch jump ins and challenge his foes in the air can be seen as a step up from his contemporaries, but in others, the floatiness of his jumps can make jumping in himself a difficult affair, and this only becomes more difficult when you take his fixed jump angles into account. As a result, Sukapon's aerials are moves that you're more than likely not going to be using often in a fight, but rest assured they have the potential to shine when used properly. Sukapon's neutral air is Suka Punch, a simple attack that will have Sukapon hold one of his hands out in front of himself, damaging any foe he touches, and holding this pose for a substantial period of time. In much the same vein as Ryu or Terry's neutral air, this attack's big draw is its long-lasting hitbox mixed with its very quick startup speed, with this allowing Sukapon's player to use this as not only a landing option, but also an out-of-shield option. This also ends up pairing nicely with several of Sukapon's specials, as not only can his player immediately cancel on hit, but the lingering hitbox can also serve as protection when preparing to use a Sukapon roll. But as you might have guessed, this attack's short range can result in Sukapon getting punished if spaced properly. It might not sport the blind spot it does in Joy Mech Fight, but it's best used when you're on your way up. Sukapon's forward air is Mecha Layout, another simple attack that will have Sukapon kick out in front of himself with both feet at once, dealing damage to any foe in his path before pulling back. In terms of design, this attack is an alternate take on Sukapon's standard jumping kick from Joy Mech Fight, as instead of sporting a lingering hitbox like his jumping punch, this attack will now hit quickly and deal much higher damage. One can almost see it as Sukapon's equivalent to Ryu's forward air, and much like said attack, this move can serve as both a solid damage option and the perfect buffer for a special attack follow-up, although it might prove difficult to land thanks to the floating nature of Sukapon's jumps. Sukapon's up air is Sukapon Copter, a more visually interesting attack that will have Sukapon spin around in midair, his hands extended above his head and dealing damage to any foe who comes into contact with him. This move's attack pattern is based on I Copter from Joy Mech Fight, but instead of I using his lower half to deal damage, Sukapon will attack using his upper half, launching foes upwards on hit as opposed to I's knockdown. This move's speed, mixed with its surprisingly long-lasting hitbox, make it arguably Sukapon's most useful aerial, and as an added bonus, Sukapon's player can briefly slow their fall speed by holding down the attack button, making the move easier to land at the cost of being easier to hit themselves. On top of that, this move also sports some very fast recovery speed, much like the aerials of a majority of his FGC brethren, so with proper timing, a talented Sukapon player can potentially ladder their opponent to the top of the screen by platform canceling. Sukapon's back air is Acting Chops, a simple attack with a comedic name that will have Sukapon attack behind him with a roundhouse kick. His pose similar to a pirouetting ballerina as his foot launches anything in its path with some solid force. In terms of design, this brand new attack plays into both Sukapon's basic stance as well as his love for comedy. While it's never explicitly stated as to which type of comedy Sukapon specializes in, his rapid and erratic movements when performing make me believe that he leans towards Kyogen, which is based around slapstick and satire with very exaggerated body movements. As a result, the satirical take on a ballerina kick into his opponent's gut fits both criteria of Kyogen comedy, and with some serious power behind it, this is Sukapon's go-to aerial kill confirm and a very dangerous attack to get caught by if you're close to or off the ledge. Finally, Sukapon's down air is Tiger Pounce, a deceptively strong aerial option that will have Sukapon perform a dive kick through the air, damaging any foe in his path before coming to a stop once he makes contact with the floor. This attack is based on Tiger's Eagle Kick from Joy Mech Fight, and should any foe get caught by the beginning of the move, they'll be spiked and dragged down with Sukapon as it quickly descends, with its crooked attack angle making it fairly similar to the spikes of characters like Sonic and Sheik, or so you might think. While its spike potency is pretty great, this move's cancel window is much slower than its contemporaries, meaning that if Sukapon misses the stage, there's a very good chance he's going to plummet to his death unless the attack was used near the top of the screen. But, to compensate, this move's recovery time is notably shorter. As a result, Sukapon's player can potentially use this attack as a combo starter, or, if his foe chooses to block, a way to set up a tick grab, with this calling back to the way it was mainly used by Tiger players in Joy Mech Fight. Sukapon will grab his foes by reaching his hands forward, covering a wide horizontal range before pulling his foes back to his location. While it might not sport the unique bonuses of your standard tether grab, Sukapon's grab range is amongst some of the greatest in the Smash series, with this allowing his player to not only maintain their keep-away-oriented playstyle, but also sport some excellent tick throw potential, all while he performs a headbutt attack for his pummel. As for his throws, a majority of Sukapon's options are designed for repositioning or simply resetting neutral, as their launch power mixed with Sukapon's lackluster combo game makes follow-ups difficult to perform. While that's the case, however, Sukapon does make up for his lack of setup options with arguably one of the game's best kill throws, with this making him a very dangerous character to push near the ledge, for one mistake is all it might take to lose whatever advantage his foes thought they had. Sukapon's forward throw is Twirl and Toss, a simple throw that follows its name to a T, as Sukapon will spin around with his foe in hand before tossing them away in front of himself. In terms of design, this throw sports a high but fixed knockback growth, allowing Sukapon's player to put some range between them and their foes at even earlier percents. While its fixed growth might prevent it from being used as a kill throw, the ability to chase with Sukapon's specials can potentially stab some serious damage against the game's heavier fighters. Regardless, making space is more than you can ask for as a Sukapon player, especially against characters that will be constantly pushing in on you. Sukapon's up throw is Mecha Cartwheel, another simple throw option that will have Sukapon root his magnetic core in place, all before rapidly spinning his limbs, launching foes upwards with a double foot kick before returning to his original stance. This throw is a rather odd tool in Sukapon's kit, as while its launch power is fairly decent and works well to throw foes out of position, Sukapon doesn't really have many tools that can synergize with it. At most, this throw can be used to either punish foes to have trouble landing, or as a kill option, but the latter won't be working on a majority of the cast until very high percents. It should be noted that Sukapon can also harm any nearby opponents that are too close, so it might have some potential as a burst option in multiplayer fights, but other than that, it's probably going to be your least used throw. Sukapon's back throw is Sukapon Toss, a more destructive throw option that will have Sukapon bend backwards, all while tossing his foes behind him with an incredible amount of force. A reference to Sukapon's grab attack from Joy Mech Fight, this rather unassuming throw sports an incredible level of strength, with its very high knockback growth allowing Sukapon to secure kills against foes near the ledge as early as 70% on the game's lighter fighters. This ends up pairing well with both Sukapon's excellent grab range and defensive playstyle, as having his back pushed to the ledge might just end up being a part of his strategy. On top of that, it can also serve as a fantastic repositioning tool outside of its kill range, as its ability to force foes off stage is on par with the likes of Ness and Mewtwo, but don't expect to be following up after it with your lackluster mobility. Finally, Sukapon's down throw is Suplex Drop, another simple throw option that will have Sukapon hold onto his foe tightly, all before jumping up into the air and bringing them down to the floor behind him. A reference to Ai's throw attack from Joy Mech Fight, this attack's solid damage is offset by some surprisingly low knockback growth, all while it launches foes behind Sukapon as opposed to in front of him. As for its purpose in combat, this attack's low launch angle mixed with its high hit stun will allow Sukapon to potentially chase his foes using a couple of his special moves. But this chase window will only continue to shrink as your foe's percent increases, all while smaller characters might be able to DI out of the follow-up range at even earlier percents. It's not all bad though, as poor tech choices can still lead to Okuzeme opportunities, so make sure you use this throw sparingly in order to catch your foes off guard. Now made it to Sukapon's specials, and much like the fighting game characters that came before him, this is where this comedic construct will get a chance to show off the tools that set him far apart from the other fighters of Smash. From controlling space, to explosive pushes, to heavily punishing over aggression, Sukapon's specials kit might not be the flashiest, but has all the right tools to help lead his player to victory, and should you choose to take him lightly, chances are high that you're going to be on the receiving end of a nasty case of broken hubris. Starting with his neutral special, Sukapon will make use of his trademark projectile to control space and damage foes from afar, all while forcing them into frame traps that can lead from anything to guard breaks to tick throws. It might not seem like much at face value, but has the potential to be one hell of a zoning tool if used properly. Tone Decker. With this, Sukapon will focus energy within his head before projecting it forward, with this creating a copy of his head that will fly forward across the screen and damage any foe that it makes contact with. In terms of design, this projectile attack is very similar to the likes of your standard fireball projectile, like Ryu's Hadouken, with its visual design here in Smash being made more vibrant and easier for players to read, as it now appears more like an energy projection as opposed to simply looking like a copy of Sukapon's regular head. This fireball will, in turn, burst apart and damage the first foe it makes contact with its low knockback growth being offset by some fairly solid damage. This will allow Sukapon's player to pressure his foes in the neutral and limit their ability to approach, and with a consistent hitbox that doesn't lose damage as it advances, Taunts has the potential to be dangerous from either point-blank range or from the other side of the screen. It's also one of the main ways that Sukapon can tech chase foes without putting himself at risk, as the player can choose to either speed up or slow down Taunts' movement speed by either holding forwards or backwards during the move's startup frames, with this being a feature that it shares with its appearance in Joy Mech Fight as well. All of this comes together to create a highly reliable projectile option that will help Sukapon maintain his stage presence and put pressure on his foes from almost anywhere on the screen, with the slower version of Taunts making it easier for Sukapon to approach, while the faster version will make it much harder for zoners to charge up their strongest tools. Moving on to his side special, Sukapon will make use of what is easily his most versatile attack, with its explosive speed, solid damage, and fantastic range, making it a tool that synergizes well with just about every attack in Sukapon's kit. And if your foe is unprepared for it, punish them repeatedly until they're constantly on edge. No matter what range he's fighting at, teach your foes to fear this dangerous burst option, Sukapon Roll. With this, Sukapon will contort his body into the shape of a wheel before rocketing forward across the screen, with this covering a wide horizontal range and dealing damage to the closest target in Sukapon's path. At face value, this rather unassuming move might seem like just your standard advancing attack, not unlike moves such as Yoshi's Egg Roll or Sonic's Spin Dash, but those that take the time to learn all this move has to offer will quickly come to understand that this move's potential is far and beyond any of its contemporaries. In particular, Sukapon not only has the ability to cancel his roll early in order to avoid taking damage, but also sports the ability to leap up into the air at any point in the roll, which can act as an instant counter for those thinking they can safely jump over the attack. On top of that, Sukapon Roll's almost instantaneous startup speed makes it extremely dangerous to whiff attacks against Sukapon at close to mid-range, as one mistake can instantly lead into either a 1-2 punch of forward tilt and Sukapon Roll, or forcing his foes to eat a raw Sukapon Roll in order to maximize the move's damage. It's also an attack that can double as a solid recovery option, as Sukapon's player is also capable of performing this move in the air as well, with the move's angle and range depending on how early into a jump the move is performed. If you use the move near the top of your jump, the roll's angle and range will be at its shortest, while using it near the beginning of your jump will maximize the move's horizontal range, much like how the move is shown to work in Joy Mech Fight. Finally, to round out its already amazing stats, it's also an attack that's fairly difficult to punish on shield, as regardless of whether it's a successful hit or not, Sukapon will be bounced backwards during the move's recovery frames, with this coming at the cost of being impossible to follow up after a successful attack. However, with all of this being said, Sukapon Roll is far from impossible to counter. As a matter of fact, reckless use of this move can be one of the quickest ways that Sukapon can end up losing control of a match. While its damage is solid and its startup is explosive, its lack of a disjoint means that it can be easily stuffed by incoming attacks if your foe can predict when you're going to roll, which, given its strength and synergy with Sukapon's kit, is probably going to be quite often. As a result, overly relying on it can be dangerous, as Sukapon can't hold the charge and must rocket forward the moment the attack is input. This is why learning to beta attacks with a roll cancel, or using this move more as a follow-up option, is far more optimal than using it on its own. But, while that's the case, there is one last aspect of Sukapon Roll that I've yet to talk about. You see, should the player manually input half circle back plus special during the roll's active frames, Sukapon will hop into the air and make use of the Sukapon Roll secondary attack method, which is known as the EX roll, with this causing his body to emit a bright orange light and create a miniature explosion once he makes contact with a foe. This version of Sukapon Roll sacrifices its explosive speed for something a lot more volatile, namely much higher damage and knockback growth, with the EX roll strength being far beyond any and all attacks in Sukapon's kit. As a result, landing an EX roll has the potential to be an absolute game changer, and as an added bonus, the move's volatile damage output in Joy Mech Fight is a thing of the past, with it now always dealing the same damage, regardless of scaling. This makes the few setups Sukapon has into his EX roll some of the deadliest 1-2 punches in the entire game, with chief among them being Taunts into EX roll. It's not exactly the easiest combo to set up, but it's near Final Smash levels of damage when Sukapon manages to pull it off. Just be sure you don't make your intentions too clear, however, as EX Roll's recovery time is much greater and in turn, much easier to punish, especially for the game's faster fighters. Moving on to his recovery special, Sukapon will make use of a versatile damage option that won't only allow Sukapon to recover from certain doom, but also bypass projectiles and punish foes trying to play outside of Sukapon's effective damage range. Get caught out of position, and it's not just Sukapon Roll that you'll have a reason to be afraid of. Dash Upper. With this, Sukapon will perform an advancing dash forward once the player inputs the attack, all before flying up into the air with a rising uppercut. Originally utilized by the mech fighter named Tiger, this dangerous attack will spore a brief invulnerability window on startup, much like you'd expect from Ryu's Shoryuken. But with its unique attack pattern and multiple hits of damage, it's actually closer to the likes of Sakura's Shuoken, or technically speaking, Sakura's Shuoken is closer to Tiger's dash upper, since Joy Mech Fight came out first. This advancing invulnerability is also one of the main ways that Sukapon can deal with Keep Away, as when combined with Tondecker, it might be difficult for some characters to get their game plan going against Sukapon. But while that's the case, Dash Upper doesn't pack the same punch you'd expect from Shoryuken. Sure, it can confirm kills at higher percents, but its kill threshold is far from the best that Sukapon has to offer. Regardless, its ability to not only protect Sukapon in the neutral, but also when off stage, gives him a recovery that's easily in contention for the best of the FGCs, thanks especially to his ability to use both Sukapon roll and dash upper in the same recovery cycle. Finally, to add a bit more versatility to an attack that's already pretty versatile, the player can choose how much distance they want to give either the advancing strike or the rising punch, as holding forward will have Sukapon dash further before rising into the air, while holding up will have him shorten the dash, but greatly increase the move's vertical range. This won't affect the move's invulnerability frames or damage output, but it can definitely mix your foes up if used properly. Finally, for his down special, Sukapon will utilize a rather odd utility option sported by his fellow mech fighter Ai, with this allowing him to counter incoming damage at the cost of harming himself in the process. It's weird, it's dangerous, and it's got a very odd name. A Strong. With this, Sukapon will strike a combat-ready stance as his body becomes encased in a thick layer of metal, with this causing his body to brightly flash as he becomes temporarily invulnerable. Any foe that makes physical contact with Sukapon, either by dealing damage or simply being too close, will take a hefty chunk of damage before they're sent flying with serious force, with Sukapon's player being able to hold this stance for a total of 1.5 seconds before the metal shell breaks apart and Sukapon returns to his idle animation. In terms of design, this odd move has a lot of the makings of your average counterattack, as its very high level of priority will allow Sukapon to punish just about any attack in the game, barring final smashes or special moves like level max KO uppercut. But while that's the case, this move's activation is not based on incoming damage. With a description like that, it sounds closer to the likes of Jigglypuff's arrest than a counter, especially with the need for the foe to overlap Sukapon for a strong to deal damage. But the ability to hold the post and continuously deal damage is far from the explosive exit sported by our favorite balloon. Simply put, a strong is a strong. And its unique combination of offense and defense make it a tool that will definitely make foes think twice about trying to bully Sukapon up close. But while it's quite strong, it does come at a cost to Sukapon himself. Once a Strong is activated, Sukapon will instantly take a small chunk of damage once the move's hitbox becomes active, and should the player continue to hold their stance, they'll take damage over time before the Strong stance is broken. This all averages out to around 15% of self-damage per each full use of a Strong, which can definitely rack up quickly should his player rely too heavily on the tool. Sure, the damage output of this move can more than make up for this downside, but there's more to a Strong's downsides that can be exploited if the move is used poorly. For starters, a Strong will only protect Sukapon against incoming physical attacks, not projectile ones, meaning that on top of harming himself, he'll take the full brunt of whatever his foe chooses to shoot his way if he gets caught out of position. On top of that, Sukapon can only harm foes on contact if he's overlapping them. Should they stand next to him, they'll be able to avoid the damage and even grab him out of the stance, so it's best to stick to countering incoming attacks as opposed to trying to be Jigglypuff's Echo Fighter. This move's range will briefly increase once Sukapon breaks his stance, however, so knowing when to drop a Strong might help you catch incoming attacks, or punish foes who think they can simply stand next to Sukapon in order to punish him once the move concludes. It's odd, it's tricky, and it's damn powerful when used properly. It's a move that can only be described as a Strong. Next comes the final smash, and for this, Sukapon will show that he's not alone in this fight to save the world, as he'll be getting an assist from the 7 bots that he helped rescue during the single player mode of Joy Mech Fight. Flame, Tiger, Senju, Ai, Neo, Giant, and Sasuke. With their powers combined, there's no man or mech that will be able to stand against them, and any foe caught in the crossfire are bound to be taken for an intergalactic ride. This is Mecha Fighter Mania. When the B button is pressed, Sukapon will strike a combat-ready pose before throwing himself forward across the screen, attacking the closest target with a full-body tackle and dealing small damage on contact, all while locking them into the oncoming cinematic beatdown as the final smash Smash truly begins. At this point, Sukapon will be accompanied by his creator, Dr. Emin, who will fly in on his UFO and summon the other mechs onto the battlefield, with all of them striking their own unique pose before they set their sights on the nearby opponent. Before the foe has a chance to put up their guard, the mechs will quickly close the distance and take turns performing a variety of punches and kicks, with each mech getting in at least 3 hits and racking up damage quickly. Once they've got their licks in, they'll all make way for Sukapon, who will roll in from off-screen using an advanced version of his EX Sukapon roll, all before smashing into the foe with enough force to create escape velocity. Sukapon will then turn back to pose to the camera as a massive impact can be seen on the moon in the distance, all before he lands on the ground and poses together with the other 7 mechs. What happens at this point is dependent on your opponent's percent. Should your foe be below 100% damage, they'll be shown falling back down to the stage on the top of the screen as Sukapon returns to his idle animation. But should your foe be over 100% damage, the foe will be left stranded on the moon and in turn be instantly KO'd. In terms of design, this unique beatdown is designed to show that, while Sukapon is the main character, the war against Dr. Walnock is a group effort that has 8 supposedly weaker bots overcoming all odds to save the day, all while the final blow is a reference to the final fight against Ho-Oh, which takes place on the moon itself. It's quick, it's simple, and it has a ton of impact, all while giving Sukapon the biggest impact to cement himself as the main character. For his victory theme, Sukapon will make use of the small jingle that plays whenever a player wins a match in Joy Mech Fight, be it against CPUs in the single player mode or other players in the versus mode. This goes in line with the victory themes of both Ryu and Terry, and while it might not be much in terms of fanfare, it's a tune that matches the simplicity of the character it's attached to. Victory animation number 1 will show Sukapon roll into view of the camera using his Sukapon roll, all before crashing into the ground with enough force to cause his body to break apart. Not to worry though, as Sukapon will pick himself up by the head, his various body parts magnetizing back to their original location before Sukapon performs a cheering animation. This is a collective reference to both Sukapon's intro and stun animation from Joy Mech Fight, as stunned foes will be forced to taunt instead of being put into a dazed state. It's a simple yet expressive animation, and Sukapon will hold this animation until the player cycles back to the character's select screen. Victory animation number 2 will show Sukapon launching his head forward using Kananiran, all before his body snaps to its location and he comes to a screeching halt. At this point, Sukapon will turn towards the camera and strike a pose, and he'll hold this pose until the player cycles back to the character select screen. This brand new animation is designed to accentuate Sukapon's silly and comedic personality, and to add to this, Sukapon will occasionally begin to lose his balance as he holds the pose, all before he's able to recompose himself and play to the camera. Finally, victory animation number 3 will have Sukapon pull out a magic hat and wand, and after tapping the rim of the hat with his wand, a miniature Sukapon will pop out of the hat, much to the regular sized Sukapon's surprise. This is a reference to the animation that plays once the player unlocks hard mode, and both Sukapons will pose to the camera until the player cycles back to the character select screen. Taunt number 1 will have Sukapon leap up into the air, his limbs rotating around his core in a circular manner before he catches his fall with a single hand, at which point he'll pose to the camera before flipping back onto his feet. This silly handstand is a reference to an animation that Sukapon is shown to perform in Joy Mech Fight, namely during the many poses he strikes during the game's credits. Speaking of which, Taunt number 2 will also reference one of these many elaborate poses, with this having Sukapon quickly hop from foot to foot as his head quickly moves from side to side, all before Sukapon catches it to stop its momentum and performs a small pose to the camera. It's a funny little animation that perfectly encapsulates Sukapon's personality, and that's all one could ask for, all while the end pose is an original addition that adds on to the madness. Finally, Taunt number 3 will have Sukapon pull out a microphone, all before doing what he does best, telling jokes. While he won't actually be saying anything, Sukapon will perform a series of rapid and ecstatic animations as long as the player holds down the taunt button, with this mirroring his single player ending in Joy Mech Fight. It's a silly yet very fitting taunt that will definitely boil the blood of those unable to get past his Sukapon roll, and while we might not be able to hear it, I'm sure he's telling the best jokes you've never heard. For his colors, Sukapon will make use of simple palette swaps, with these changing his full body into a variety of colors that either serve to reference the various playable robots in Joy Mech Fight, or simply matching the team color options here in Smash. Sukapon is a character whose vibrant personality should be matched with equally vibrant colors, and that's exactly what these color options set out to do. Well, for the most part. Color number 1 is Sukapon's standard appearance, with this featuring his bright pink body and red gem on his chest. This is also a color he shares with his more powerful counterpart, Sukapon, but nothing beats the original. Color number 2 will change Sukapon's body to a golden yellow with a bright yellow core, with this referencing his player 2 color from Joy Mech Fight. This is, again, a color he shares with Sukapon, and is often seen as Sukapon's default color to differentiate him from Sukapon in group settings. Color number 3 will change Sukapon's body to a jade green, with this referencing his fellow starter bot, Neo. While over 4 different playable characters share this color, Neo is the first one you unlock, so it's his by default. Color number 4 will change Sukapon's body to an ocean blue, with this referencing the colors of the playable bot Senju. It can also be seen as a reference to the fan favorite character Jibber, but don't expect it to help you low profile incoming attacks. Color number 5 will change Sukapon's body to a vibrant purple, with this referencing the starter bot Sasuke. Color number 6 will swap Sukapon's body color to a blend of white and gray, with this referencing the odd bot known as Hover. This color can also be seen as a reference to the prototype version of Sukapon seen in the intro to Joy Mech Fight, although his face will remain the same. Color number 7 will change Sukapon's body to a bright orange, with this referencing the player 1 colors for the fan favorite characters Zack and Super Zack. Zack is a character that, much like Sukapon, gets an upgraded version and goes from a rather underwhelming character to one of the best characters in the game, so he's an excellent character for him to reference. Finally, color number 8 is an original color, with this changing Sukapon's body to a jet black, while his eyes are changed to bright white dots. This unique appearance has been dubbed Dark Sukapon, and can be considered a dark antagonistic mirror to our lovable comedy bot, even if it does give Sukapon a passing resemblance to Mr. Game & Watch. This has been an interesting journey. While I'd always had a passing interest in Joy Mech Fight, namely from the game's unique character designs and surprisingly fantastic soundtrack, I didn't really expect to come out of this video liking Sukapon as a Smash candidate any more than I already did. But, after working with the character on and off for a while, and pushing the envelope of what's possible with his animations, I'm happy to say that he's become my most wanted classic Nintendo character going into the next Smash. He's got all the makings of a fun potential Smash fighter. He's got a unique playstyle, an expressive personality that's enhanced by the limitations of his design, and most importantly, he's explosive and hard to predict, which gives him the potential to be just as fun to watch as he is to play. That might not seem like much in terms of praise, but that definitely puts him in a league above roughly 70% of Smash's current roster. As for whether Sukapon actually has a chance of becoming playable in Smash, that I'm not entirely sure about. While he's a character that was supposed to be a part of the Smash series as early as Melee, he was never considered for a playable role thanks to issues regarding Nintendo's rights to the character. And while his potential competition is slowly becoming smaller as these games go on, it's clear that he's far from the most popular character in this current niche. He's also not the only classic Nintendo character to have been upgraded to assist trophy status in recent years, as Takamaru has been an assist trophy since Smash 4, and while his combat style is original, I don't see many picking him to join the fight over the likes of Rayman. Regardless, he's an interesting character with the potential to represent a part of Nintendo's history that no other character can, and while this video might have been a long time coming, I'm glad to see it finally get finished. So to Pierre, and the many folks that I know have been waiting for this video's release, I hope they lived up to your expectations. And with that, Season 7 of Challenger Concepts is now underway. If you like what you saw and want to see more, be sure to like the video and subscribe. And if you wish to keep up to date on what's coming next, follow the link in the description to join my Discord, where you'll be able to see what's coming next before any other platform. Also, if you'd like to help support what I do here, you can either become a channel member or join my Patreon for as low as a couple bucks a month. Anything I receive from either platform goes straight back into making these videos better, so all support is highly appreciated. That's all from me for now, so until the next time I see you, I've been Felicia Fan, and I hope that you have a good one.